So if you're on Dave Ramsey baby steps 6 and 7, you're probably a little bit annoyed, but really not overall concerned with the current inflationary times that we're in. Because if you're on baby steps 6 and 7, you have paid off all your debt, except maybe a mortgage. You have a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. You're already investing at least 15% of your income into retirement. You've got something squared away for your kids' college fund, if you have kids. So when you get down to 6 and 7, it comes down to paying off your house early, and step 7 is build wealth and give. So the question is, you get to 6 and 7, like what now? One of the first things that I did, because that's where I'm at now, is I started hearing a lot about high yield savings accounts. I know that many of you have probably done these a long time ago, but I started hearing about them, on the Ramsey show, on the Money Guys show, on a whole bunch of different places and different types of YouTube content that I listen to. And I always hear about them. And my credit union was paying less than 1% interest. And so I said, well, I'm seeing that some of these online savings accounts are paying 4 or 5%. I need to at least look into this. So I was a little bit nervous about doing like an online high yield savings. So what I did was I took kind of a 3-pronged approach. Sorry, there's a lot of mosquitoes out here tonight. It's a little cool, a little bit windy, but the mosquitoes are out. So I took a 3-pronged approach. One, I wanted to make sure that any account I was looking to transfer my money into was FDIC insured. So again, FDIC insurance is federal deposit insurance. It insures your money up to $250,000. If something happens and your bank goes out of business, the federal government guarantees your deposits up to $250,000. I also wanted to take a look at a lot of reviews. I wanted to look at a place that had been around for a while and had a lot of good reviews. I wanted to see what types of problems people were having, if any. And then the third thing, I kind of took a third step because I was a little bit stubborn on this. I wanted to actually know somebody that had an account with the bank that I was looking to bank with. And so I found a bank that met all 3 of those things. I ended up putting my emergency fund in a high yield savings account, and it's paying 5%, and it met all those criteria. So it's FDIC insured, it had really good reviews, and I personally knew somebody else that was doing it. And so, now go from making less than 1% on the emergency fund to making 5%. So, it's not like a huge amount of money, but, it's not bad for free, basically. There's nothing I really need to do. I'm sure you pay taxes on that interest, but I'd rather pay taxes on interest than just not get interest or get very little. So that's the first thing I did, was kind of go back and kind of tweak some things. I also kind of went back and recalculated, and right now I'm at about 5 months of an emergency fund. I think over time I'm going to bump that up to 6. I'm content with 5 for right now. I think over time I'll look to bump that to 6. So there's a lot of different opinions about step 6 and paying off your house early. So anytime you listen to the Ramsey show, they always tell people, hey, pay off your house early. If you're going to not pay off your house and you're going to put money into investments, it's almost like you're taking a loan out on your house to invest. I guess I kind of see the logic in that. I'm more along the lines of, I personally want to kind of basically boost the amount of money that I'm investing. Because, if you have a mortgage from 2021 or earlier, you're probably locked in at a pretty low rate. Could be half of what the current rates are or less. So I'm kind of the viewpoint that, if you don't know that you're going to stay in a place really long also, it's something to consider, maybe potentially investing more money instead of paying that house off early. I'm kind of split on this. For right now, I've chose to invest more and not worry about paying more toward my mortgage. That may change in the future. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts? There's a lot of people that call into the Ramsey show that say, hey, I paid off my house early and it was the best thing I've ever done. And there's a lot of people that call in and say, well, if my investments are making X amount and my mortgage is at a 2.5 or 3.0 or 3.25, these investments make more money. The first thing that Dave always says is, hey, well, you're not calculating in risk. And anytime you go to invest in anything, there's always those disclaimers like, hey, investing involves risk, and it does. That's the first thing that it always tells you, that, hey, there's in the fine print, it's like all investing involves risk. Past performance is not an indicator of future success. So, if you're on the fence on that, you're not sure which you really want to do. I know that on Allworth Financial, they always suggest to hire like a fee-only fiduciary to take a look at numbers. That's always an option too, to hire a professional. I'm not a financial advisor, but if I feel like I'm in a situation where I need to have professional advice, I think that would be a direction I would at least consider, to hire a fee-only fiduciary. Fiduciaries are required by law to put your interests above their own. And so I always thought that was an interesting piece of advice that Allworth Financial always gives their listeners. If you've never heard their show before, it comes out on Saturdays. I typically listen to it on Spotify, and it's called Allworth Financial. A lot of interesting topics on there. A lot of interesting scenarios. I feel like I've learned quite a bit. I think they're out of California. So that's something I've been kind of kicking around about. Step 6. Step 7, build wealth and give. So part of what I've done there is, the high yield savings, for sure. Another thing I did was I went ahead and opened up a brokerage account. And so I've been doing research on different types of investments, and I've considered a lot of different things. The longevity of the type of investments, the types of average returns, and that sort of thing. And none of it's guaranteed for the future, but I think it's always a good thing to get educated on those types of things, and to do research and to listen to different perspectives. There's a lot of perspectives out there. There's perspectives out there talking about index funds. There's mutual funds like index funds. There's perspectives out there talking about actively managed mutual funds. There's people out there that'll tell you to invest in single stocks. There's people that'll tell you to invest in gold and silver. There's just a gamut of different types of things. And I'm not here to make any suggestions as far as what you should invest in, but I think one thing I learned from reading books like The Richest Man in Babylon is, small incremental consistent changes that you make can really add up to some big things. So if you select a certain percentage that you're gonna go into a brokerage account or a high yield savings account or whatever the case may be, that a lot of these things can add up a lot over time. People talk about treasuries and stuff like that. So I think the key is to just get educated on what your options are, and then make your own decision, or hire a financial advisor to help you make that decision. But I think step 1 is really kind of understanding what type of options you have. The types of resources that I've used, like I said, I mentioned Allworth, I mentioned the Ramsey show, I mentioned the Money Guy show. I've read a lot of books. I read books like The Millionaire Next Door. I've listened to podcasts with people like J.L. Collins on there. I've listened to podcasts from like the Bogleheads. There's just so many different viewpoints out there. But I think I've found that the key for me is to not have paralysis by overanalysis, to do some sound research, make decisions, and then just keep making incremental progress, basically like crock pot style, and not expecting the type of get rich quick types of things that you see on a lot of like different types of TikTok videos and stuff like that. So if you're on baby steps 6 and 7, I'd love to hear some comments from you. If you have any ideas that you'd like to share as well. If you haven't already, if you'd consider subscribing to the channel, that'd be awesome. And I'll see you in the next one.